Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie and today I'm going to be giving you my January wrap up, and this one is going to be a long one, so buckle up. Okay, so in the month of January I completed 22 books, which is mind-blowing to me, but honestly 9 of those were children's books. So, I mean, they count, but not as much as a full 500-page novel. But I'm counting them anyway because they count on Goodreads. So the first book I finished in the month of January was Hollow City, the second book to Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. And this is one that I started middle December and I didn't finish it until like the first or second day of January. So I read most of this book in December, but I didn't finish it until early January. If you don't know, this is an urban fantasy story about these peculiar children that live in basically like this magical like orphanage type thing, and they all have their own unique special powers, and it's very peculiar, it's very strange, very weird, but in a good way. And I like this series, but I'm not super gripped by it. It's kind of mostly just okay with me. Like, I recognize that it's good writing and a good story, but I just don't connect to the characters that much. It didn't blow me away, but I definitely enjoyed this second book more than the first one. Next, I finished the first 8 books in the Magic Treehouse series by Mary Pope Osborn. These are some of my favorite books from when I was a kid, and I decided that I wanted to reread them because I haven't read them since I was probably like 8 or 10 maybe. And I used to love these books, and I still love them to this day. I think they're wonderful, magical, adventurous children's books. So if you're looking for just a fun children's series, or if you are looking for something to read to your kids, I think this is a wonderful option. If you don't know, these books follow 2 siblings, Jack and Annie, and in their backyard running through the woods one day they discover this treehouse. They go into the treehouse, there's a bunch of different books, and basically all they have to do is pick up a book, look at a picture in that book, say that they want to go to that destination, and the treehouse spins and transports them in time to whatever location is in that book. Next, I read my favorite book of the year so far, Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I honestly really regret not reading this book sooner. I have absolutely nothing negative to say about this book. Like, I know it's probably not for everyone. In fact, I know it's not for everyone. I have friends who really didn't like this book, but I personally absolutely loved it. I love the characters, I love the world, I love the superpowers and the superheroes and supervillains. If you don't know, this story is like a dystopian urban fantasy type kind of sci-fi story about this character Nova, who is basically like a supervillain. She's an anarchist. And then it also follows Adrian, who is the adopted son of 2 founders of the Renegades. The Renegades are this group of superheroes who got rid of the anarchists like 8 years ago, and they now are basically the government. So this book is about superheroes versus supervillains, and the superheroes aren't all good and the supervillains aren't all bad, and it's kind of like there's a gray area to everyone. I loved this book. I loved the friendships. I loved the romance. I loved it. Next, I read Catwoman Soul Stealer by Sarah J. Maas. This is a part of the DC Icons series. I love the character of Catwoman, and I grew up watching the movie with my late dad, and I was very excited to read this book because not only is it about Catwoman, but it's written by one of my favorite authors of all time. So I was very excited to read this, and I really liked it. It didn't blow me away, but I really enjoyed it. I love the DC world. I love the DC characters more than Marvel characters. and I really like this book. And one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Arrow, and I loved seeing some of those characters show up in this book. Really enjoyed it. Next, I read The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. I watched the movie to this back in December, and I was like intrigued by it. It wasn't like the greatest movie ever, but I was like, I know this is a book, and I like the movie enough to kind of check out the book, see if I like it. I liked the book better than the movie, but this book didn't blow me away. I had some issues with it. Most of these books in this video today, I have a full review up on my blog if you want to check it out and know more of my thoughts about it, but I just thought this book was okay. Next, I read Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. This is a desert fantasy story about people with superhuman abilities who are like descendants of genies. It's kind of cool. I really love the story. I love the characters. I love the romance. I love the friendships in this book. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the rest of the series. Next, I read Geekerella by Ashley Poston, and I thought this book was so cute. It's a fangirl modern retelling of Cinderella. It was very cute. It was very fluffy and fun, and there were also some deeper themes throughout it too, but they weren't like the driving force of the story. I had some issues with the romance, but it was still really cute. Next, I read An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is a fairy Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I thought it was just okay. I felt like the world building was lacking. It was definitely insta-love. Didn't really care for the couple together anyway, and it was just there were a lot of plot holes and world building flaws that I just noticed, and overall the story just didn't blow me away. I did like it, but I didn't love it. It was just okay for me. Next, I read Panic by Lauren Oliver. This story follows a couple teenagers who are participating in a game that happens every year in their town. It's an illegal game where they are basically dared to do dangerous things, and whoever ends up on top wins a bunch of money. This book was not what I expected, and I honestly thought there was like a fantasy element involved. I was completely wrong. This is like a contemporary, regular life type story. They're just participating in an illegal game. If you've ever read the book Nerve or seen the movie, kind of like that, but different. Next, I read The Maze Runner by James Dashner. This is a book that I told myself I would never read because I heard so many negative opinions about this book. I finally gave in and I read it, and I had seen the movie previous to reading this book. I kind of liked the way the movie did it better than the book. Don't get me wrong, the book wasn't bad. I did like some aspects of the book that weren't in the movie, but the changes that they made for the movie adaptation, I liked those better than the original content. But also, I didn't find the movie that great either, so. But, with that being said, this book was not bad. It was not horrible like I thought it was going to be. I expected to not like this book, and I ended up enjoying it. Next, I finished Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and J. Kristoff. I listened to the audiobook for this, and I liked it a lot better than I thought I was going to. I didn't want to get on this hype train. I really didn't want to read this book until like maybe a couple years after the hype of this series had settled down, but I saw it on the Libby app, so I was like, I can listen to this audiobook for free, see if I like it, and then if I like it I can purchase the rest of the books, whatever. So I decided to give it a try because it's free, and I liked it. I didn't love it as much as most people love it and just rave about it all the time. It wasn't that great to me, but I really liked the mysterious aspect of it, and you don't really know what's going on. You're trying to figure it out, solve the mystery. And then also I thought the sci-fi elements of this book were done really well. I've read a couple of sci-fi books recently, and they did not handle a sci-fi world nearly as good as this book did. Next, I finished The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is an adult urban fantasy circus novel, and it's basically like a romance between two people who were supposed to be enemies, and I didn't find the romance that believable, but I did enjoy the story. Also, it was really slow, which is fine, but I expected more action because this novel is branded as like this grand magical competition of these two characters fighting back and forth, competing, and really wasn't that. It was very laid back and casual, and it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I did like it. Next, I listened to The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. This is the first book in the series of Unfortunate Events series, and I basically listened to this book so that I could watch the TV show on Netflix. If you don't know, this is a children's series following these siblings who are recently orphaned, and then they're sent to live with basically like this evil relative, and he very badly mistreats them, and there's like child abuse and that kind of stuff, and he's just after their money because their family was very rich and they were left a huge fortune when their parents died. So he's after their money, and they're just all around not in a good situation, and these books just follow a series of unfortunate events that happen in their lives. And it was cute, it was strange but funny, and I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I expected it to, but it's probably because I didn't read this series when I was younger, so I don't have any nostalgia connected to it. And then I watched the first episode of the TV series, and I found it super funny. I love the narration and just the dialogue. It was very weird in like a funny way. Next, I read Illusive by Emily Llyod-Jones. This is a dystopian urban fantasy-esque story. In this world, like a decade ago, there was a virus that broke out and was killing a lot of people, and it was very deadly, but someone managed to create a vaccine that could control this virus. But because they needed it so quickly, they didn't do a lot of tests on it before they released it to the public, and it ended up having some unexpected side effects. Basically, it gave some people superpowers, and the powers in this book, the abilities in this book, are pretty different from similar books that I've read, and I really enjoyed it. The main character of this story is an illusionist, and basically she has the ability to make people see whatever she wants them to see. She can make herself appear as someone else. She can make herself blend into her surroundings, so basically she's invisible. She can somewhat project her abilities to like make people see an object differently or a room differently. It's pretty cool, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I really love this book. I love the characters, I loved the magical abilities. If you enjoy like a good heist story, this is probably a book that you would enjoy. I really liked it. Basically, all the characters in this book are just a bunch of criminals. Most of you have probably never heard of this book, but I really liked it, and I do recommend it if you enjoy dystopians, superhuman abilities, or heist. This is probably the book for you. And finally, the last book that I finished in the month of January was Hunted by Meagan Spooner. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling following a teenage huntress, and it was really good. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Beauty and the Beast retellings that I've ever read. I will say it is kind of slow, so if that's not something you generally enjoy, this may not be something that you would like, but if you are okay with like a slow burn story, this is wonderful. There's also great family aspects in this book as well. I really enjoyed it. However, I will say the ending of this book wrapped up very strangely and abruptly, and it didn't quite make sense, and it was honestly a letdown, but overall I really like this book. Okay, those are all of the books that I read or listened to in the month of January. I had one of the best reading months in my entire life, and I know like a lot of these were children's stories, but still, like, I read so much this past month. It honestly blows my mind because I've been in a reading slump in and out for the last 2 years, and I haven't read a lot. Also, I was in college, so most of what I read was just for school, so I'm glad I'm reading again and I'm loving it. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I do have a blog. It's madisonstory.com. It'll be linked in the description below, and I have reviews for most of the young adult or adult books that I read, so if you want to go check out my full thoughts and opinions, you can go check it out on my blog. That is it for this video today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more bookish content by me. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite book that you read in January was. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!